Making Syrian refugees feel at home in San Diego with a special Thanksgiving celebration.
We're out in front of Father Joe's Mission in downtown San Diego, where Thanksgiving is about to come a little early.
You know, those are stories that they're eating.
And on this Thanksgiving Eve, a museum exhibit you can eat. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Ebony Monet. Theater workers at UC San Diego are reaching out to the public tonight and trying to avert an upcoming layoff. Playbill.com reports the school has laid off its entire theater production staff as part of a restructuring to create separate teams for the school and the La Jolla Playhouse. The workers are taking their case online. They say they've been invited to reapply for their jobs at lower pay. The layoffs take effect in January. The California Supreme Court will review a settled case that gives state and local governments power to cut employee pensions. An appeal was filed by labor unions who want to overturn the ruling made in August. Before that ruling, state and local employees were entitled to the pension in place when they were hired.
You have some unanswered questions that many Californians are very interested in, and the opportunity for the California Supreme Court to review a lower court ruling is actually very important.
A decision in the case is not expected for several months. The date has been set on December 5th. California's largest state employee union says they'll be walking off the job and demanding better pay from Governor Jerry Brown's administration. The move to strike comes after 7 months of failed negotiations over salary increases. Brown's administration offered SEIU Local 1000 members a 12% pay increase over 4 years. Labor leaders soundly rejected that proposal, saying they want more.
The state can do better. They have an $11.5 billion budget surplus, and the Independent Legislative Analyst Office says that they'll be recession-proof until 2021. So we know that they can do better.
The strike could be taken off the table if union leaders and state officials come to an agreement before December 5th. A federal jury says Walmart must pay millions of dollars to its truck drivers here in California because they weren't paid minimum wage. Walmart pays truckers by the mile and for some of the work they do to maintain their trucks, but not all of it. The truckers wanted to be paid for layovers too. The jury is awarding them $54 million in damages. A penalty award still has yet to be decided. California lawmakers are ending 2 years of work with no plan in place to address the state's crumbling roads. The legislature's 2-year session ended next week, including a special session on transportation funding. Governor Brown offered a $3.6 billion transportation proposal this summer, but Democrats wanted a plan worth more than double that amount. Now, as political limbo continues, some say we could be in trouble.
Our roads are over 50 years old, and with the constant pounding they get every day with about half the nation's freights that travel on California roads, it's not going to last much longer. We're getting to the breaking point.
In a written statement, Governor Brown and Democratic leaders promised to come back to the issue when the new legislature convenes in January. This upcoming extended weekend is expected to be the busiest Thanksgiving travel period in nearly a decade. AAA says 49 million people are taking to the roads, airways, and railways. We haven't seen numbers like this since 2007. Lower gas prices and improving economy are credited for getting the increase. Hundreds of San Diegans will sit down to Thanksgiving dinner at Father Joe's Villages tonight. The big event is just now getting underway. KPBS reporter Steve Walsh is live there. Steve?
Well, that's right, Ebony. We're here at Thanksgiving dinner at Father Joe's Mission. You can tell things are well underway. A lot of people are sitting down for Thanksgiving dinner. This is one of several Thanksgiving dinner meals that are going on at Father Joe's Mission. And to talk a little bit about it, we actually have the president and CEO of Father Joe's, Deacon Jim Vargas. So, Deacon, when you look around, you see all these people enjoying all this food. What comes to mind?
Oh, it just warms my heart. And we have, as you mentioned, we have our 2 dining rooms open, and between the 2 dining rooms this evening we'll serve 700 to 1,000 meals. So we're very excited about it.
This has become something of an institution for the city of San Diego, hasn't it?
Oh, it really has. Well, Father Joe's Villages is in its 66th year, and basically we've been celebrating Thanksgiving with our guests since the very beginning. So it is an institution.
And it seems to be growing and growing here. And this isn't actually the big meal. We've got about some 350 people in this dining room. These are mostly residents, but you've got another one here, and then you had actually a very large Thanksgiving meal where you had actually turkey. And that was at lunch.
That was at lunchtime as well. In fact, we've had almost 200 turkeys donated to us. We're very blessed. We've cooked up 600 pounds of potatoes, and we have our famous pies. We're known for those pies that are prepared by our culinary arts program students in pecan and apple and pumpkin, and they'll be served here, and they'll be served tomorrow at our 5K. Our 15th annual 5K become very popular. We're expecting about 7,500 to join us for that.
All right, so you're well ahead of me. So why do this today instead of tomorrow? And that's because everybody's going to be running.
We're going to be running, and also a lot of other providers provide meals on Thanksgiving Day. So it was decided years ago that we would do it the evening before. And I mean, the reality is that our guests have to eat 365 days a year, but we really make it special today.
All right, good point. So reporting live from Father Joe's Mission in downtown San Diego, Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Thanks, Steve. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, the Salvation Army is making sure people don't go hungry. Today, volunteers served meals at several locations. In Chula Vista, there were 3 separate servings. Altogether, more than 300 people were fed. The annual holiday tradition aims to serve anyone in need.
Well, there's a lot of people that they don't have family, or they don't have, the money to do a proper dinner. So here's a place that they can enjoy together with us and with all the people that come here to have lunch.
In addition to today's meal, the Salvation Army of Chula Vista serves lunch 5 days a week. Today in Escondido, volunteers served Thanksgiving dinner to some of the area's most in need. At Interfaith Community Services, workers served turkey and pumpkin pie. People who showed up to take part say they're thankful to have a good meal. Escondido has counted 225 people living on the streets. The latest figures from the San Diego Homeless Count finds there are nearly 2,000 homeless people in North County. Many of those are families. The holiday is billed as a celebration of 2 different cultures that broke bread together to show gratitude. Some San Diegans are working to follow that tradition by welcoming Syrian refugees with a hearty helping of food. Here's KPBS City Heights reporter Taryn Minto.
When you enter the City Heights home of Mahira Assad, you're greeted with Turkish coffee, and you're invited to sit, sip, and snack on sweets while her husband, Yahia, shares stories and their children listen. The family of 5 is from Syria. They were resettled in San Diego after escaping their country's civil war. The exchange of food is a sign of friendship and respect in his country's culture, Yahia explained through a translator. But it's been a long time since he's been able to engage in the custom. Friend Lina Abi Samra says when the family first fled Syria and landed in the neighboring country, Jordan, they felt like strangers. Yahia worked to afford a place and avoid the harsh conditions of a refugee camp, but didn't connect with the community.
He
had told us before that he'd been in Jordan for 2.5 years. Nobody invited them to their home,
But here in San Diego, thousands of miles away from the Middle East, Yahia tells Abi Samra he feels welcome.
I feel that I am a human being now. Before I felt like I wasn't, there was no dignity. I didn't feel like a human being. I felt like nothing. And now here I feel like I have some value as a human being.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Part of that is because of people like Mike Lands. He's the CEO of Hire a Helper, a company that finds someone to help you move.
Hello.
It bussed the family of 5 and other Syrian refugees to his Oceanside offices for a Thanksgiving potluck.
Just hang out with them and eat with them and play with their kids. Then, we can do our little part to, helping bring them into our culture and welcome them.
Another group, Hearts for Refugees, a local branch of the Syrian Community Network, raised money to buy Syrian families Thanksgiving meals. The organization arranged for San Diegans to bring the meals directly to the refugees' homes, giving them a chance to meet.
Food is sort of like the ultimate icebreaker.
David Lubell of the nonprofit Welcoming America says actions like these are key to helping newcomers feel comfortable. His organization encourages communities to become more inclusive and has a partnership with the White House.
It breaks the tension that might exist when people don't know each other or understand each other, because everybody understands food.
Glenn says breaking that tension is particularly important right now. San Diego has welcomed hundreds of Syrian refugees out of the 10,000 allowed in the country this year. But President-elect Donald Trump and other Republicans have called for a ban.
There's just a lot of fear in the country right now on what's going to happen with them, if the borders are going to get shut. And we felt like, in general, if we could just help open people's eyes to, these are real people who have been through, tremendously traumatic experience.
The Assad family says it is grateful for the chance after what it endured in Syria. Abi Samra says Yahia's home was shelled and possibly gassed before he was detained for about a year.
After a year, I was released. My daughter, when I saw my daughter, she ran away from me. She did not recognize me. I was so unrecognizable with all the torture and the beatings I had received.
Now safely in San Diego, the children are enrolled in school. Yahia's searching for a job, although it's tough without a car. And friends are encouraging Mahira to put her culinary skills to work.
This is how we do it.
At Hire a Helper's potluck, the family circle of friends continues to grow. Through translators, they talk, laugh, dine, and engage in their host traditions. Just before the meal, a pastor recited a Christian prayer. Yahia, a Muslim, rose to his feet and bowed his head. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
There's a chance of a slick commute for millions of drivers traveling California highways this Thanksgiving weekend. Shanae Shocker has more on the rain headed this way.
That area of low pressure and that cold front ushering on shore across the Northwest, bringing quite a bit of weather off to our north. Now, we are continuing to see some shower activity in towards San Francisco, but check this out, even snow along the Cascades. So if you are making travel plans for today, it is the biggest travel day of the year on Thanksgiving, heading towards it at least. This is going to be something you're going to want to pay attention to if you're headed up north. There could be some travel delays for us here. But tonight across Southern California, in the metro area at least, we're staying mainly clear. Temperatures are in the low 50s. Across the area, we're going to see temperatures the further inland towards the mountains drop into the low to mid 40s and even getting into the upper 30s towards Mount Laguna, Borrego Springs, and Mecca sitting in the 40s, and Oceanside 40 degrees. Now, as we head towards our Thursday, big area of high pressure begins to really continue to push off some of that colder weather as well as a lot of that moisture. So we'll continue to stay warm down around Southern California. And as we head throughout the rest of the week along the coast, we're seeing big cool-off coming for the beginning of our weekend, maybe even a shower in store. As the jet stream really begins to drop, we pick up some tropical moisture. So the weekend, at least, we'll potentially be seeing some showery activity. But at least for our Thanksgiving, it's going to be beautiful. 77 degrees for our high, and our lows sitting in the mid-30s. We'll be back to sunshine by Monday. Now, as we head inland, temperatures once again, we're going to see quite a big drop-off. Take a look from your Friday into Saturday. We're going to see about 15 degrees cooler weather on your Saturday. Also, an afternoon storm as well, maybe some showers for the wrap up of the weekend. 61 degrees. Our lows drop back down into the 30s, but our Thanksgiving day out here going to be nice as well. Slightly warmer. We're looking at 84 degrees with plenty of sunshine to go around. And once again, that's the case for your Thursday in the mountains. It is cooler as well as breezier. We have those offshore winds blowing, and that's going to cause 55 degrees for your temperatures overnight, sitting in the 30s as well. That's basically going to be the same deal for our Friday, but come the weekend, once again, it's going to be a wet one as well as cooler, dropping into highs in the 30s come our Sunday. Into the deserts we go. Cool off once again from Friday into Saturday. Not as warm for your Saturday. An afternoon shower possible come Sunday. Temperatures are going to drop down into the 60s over the weekend, but here the shower chances are much lower than inland and out towards the coast. We'll definitely be heading back towards sunny weather for our Monday. All right, for KPBS News, I'm Shanae Shocker.
San Diego's medical community is mourning a pioneer. Dr. Richard Butcher treated thousands of uninsured patients in southeastern neighborhoods, and he was the first Black president of the County Medical Society. He died earlier this month. Cheryl Clark with our media partner iNewsSource has this remembrance.
Dr. Butcher came up at a time of major civil rights discord between Black and white doctors nationally. Few Blacks were accepted into established medical schools, and his teachers tried to talk him out of applying. But Dr. Butcher didn't let that stop him. He set up practice in southeastern San Diego, in a part of town not many white doctors wanted to be because of low reimbursement rates for care to low-income patients.
People in certain zip codes have higher incidence of morbidity, mortality than people in other zip codes with the exact same diseases, the exact same kinds of supported treatments and that type of a thing.
Hundreds of people came to his memorial. They remember Dr. Butcher as a man who didn't just work to improve health care in San Diego. He also saw organized medicine as a way to improve payment for minority physicians. One state lawmaker consulted him on health policy.
Bills came to my committee. I would have to have them analyzed for the members of the committee. And whenever there was a question that my staff had, I'd call Dr. Butcher.
And for others, it was more personal.
Dr. Butcher has always been one of my first heroes. I wanted to go to medical school when I was young, and he would always give me an anecdote about medical school and tell me, it's not the work that's gonna do you in. It's gonna be the time. So make sure that you're ready for the time.
In 2015, Dr. Butcher was named Physician of the Year by the National Medical Association, an organization of 50,000 Black doctors he once led. I'm Cheryl Clark with KPBS partner iNewsSource.
I'm Hari Srinivasan. On the next news hour, the head of the company building the pipeline in North Dakota that spurred protests. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
Tomorrow, millions will sit down for what you might consider a traditional American meal, a Thanksgiving turkey with all the trimmings. Tonight, our media partner, Cronkite News, introduces us to a chef who specializes in traditional Native American dishes. Take a look.
When people say things like, well, is that Navajo food or is that New Mexican food? I say, well, it's Navajo food, but it's from Arizona. Whereas if we go to France, people can just say, well, that's Parisian or that's food from Provence. Whereas with Native American food, we're still trying to define it more to where when it's explained, the argument is done. And that's what I've been trying to do for the past 12 years. My name is Freddie Bitsui. I am the executive chef at Mitatam Cafe at the National Museum of the American Indian, Washington, D.C. And it makes me like food curator for a Native American food exhibition. Okay, so this right here we have is a 5-region samp with sumac sauce. Living on the reservation, we only had access to 5 television stations. I'd watch the cooking shows, and then I'd figure out, what's going on and just learning from the basics. But becoming a chef was something that was never really in my scope. And I went to a UNM branch in Gallup. Quickly, declared my major as an anthropology major and my minor as art history. And little did I know that those 2 disciplines would guide me toward food. What are the classic dishes that the Native people have been making, like the classic dishes to Hopi, to Navajo, the classic dishes to Pueblo cultures? So if these plants and animals were to tell their story about how they started to be consumed throughout thousands of years, that's the story that I was looking to tell. The example that I always use is the tribes in Nova Scotia and Maine and Massachusetts had access to really good clams. So what they would do is they'd get the sunchokes and the clams and add it and cook it with seawater. So one of my signature dishes is a clam soup with leek. And truthfully, people say things like, how can that be Native American if you're adding leeks, thyme, bay leaf, and chicken stock? But my job as a chef is to tell you that there was an original dish hundreds of years ago, and because people were making that particular dish, it got carried on. So when the British came, and that's when they added their cream and their butter, and that's how we get modern-day New England clam chowder.
1 second.
They grab their own food and sit down, and I'll watch, and I'll watch in disbelief, like, wow, that's my recipe. You know, that's my food. You know, those are stories that they're eating.
Thanksgiving is a time when many families across San Diego will be counting their blessings. This year, some people struggling with homelessness have a new reason to be thankful. KPBS reporter Susan Murphy brings us a story of hope from the streets of downtown San Diego.
Every other Friday in an old building on 13th Street in downtown San Diego, some vocalists gather to share their love of music. The 16 choir members belt out harmonious melodies that amplify off the metal walls.
There will be no love dying here.
The aspiring singers come from all walks of life.
I'm blind. I'm homeless right now.
Like Janet Bolden, half of the members of the choir are homeless.
Before we come too far home. The intro, yeah.
The woman behind the voices of our city choir is Steph Johnson, a jazz singer and recording artist. The San Diego native got the idea for the choir 3 years ago when she started volunteering to help the homeless.
I met so many people that played music and sang, and they'd sing me their songs and sing for me on the street, and I wanted to have a place where we could all go and make music.
Johnson's musician friend Nina Leilani Deering helps direct the choir.
Cool, let's finish it off. Listen once.
They carefully select songs with lyrics that carry messages of hope.
He broke his weak eye, helped him heal, and then he flew away.
It really touched my soul. It uplifted my spirit.
Janet Bolden is attending choir rehearsal for the first time.
I haven't sang in a long time. I really didn't have anything to sing about, but I like to listen. I love music, and I love singing.
It's also the first time in her life she's been homeless. She's been living on the streets for 2 months.
Not from any drugs or anything, but from a property where I lived at being sold, and my income being so low that I'm unable to get another place.
Inside these walls, she has found community and kindness.
Overwhelmed to know that people that I've never met before in my life care enough about me to watch out for me.
Rehearsals always include fellowship and food. Choir members are encouraged to set aside their personal struggles and their bags and carts that overflow with stuff accumulated from months of living on the streets.
You know, they know that they're accepted and they're welcome and they're in a space and that they can close their eyes and sing and enjoy that.
They're really saying, I love you.
The songs resonate onto the streets below, where Bolden hunkers down every night. She's among hundreds in the East Village living without shelter. The tent-lined sidewalks are where Johnson recruits members for the choir. She first met Bolden last month by a park down the street.
Do you sing? Do you play any music? No? Well, you don't have to be a singer. You can just come and hang out.
It's also where she found Juan Campbell. He's been homeless for 2 years.
She got down on the ground and sat down with me. And that was probably the beginning of something that I thought that anything that she had to do with a direction or a movement, that I would be a part of.
There will be no love dying.
Campbell has been a part of the choir since its beginning last spring. The former banker from Seattle says the choir has changed his life.
I love music. It's tough on those streets. I'm already a part of that. That's a negative. And so I wanted it to be something that's for the positives.
Johnson hopes the choir will raise awareness of San Diego's homeless crisis.
And I thought, well, what a wonderful way, but to like have a really wonderful, beautiful choir singing and sounding excellent, and to be like, yes, and all of these people happen to not have a home.
She hopes the singers will find healing, purpose, and a sanctuary from the streets, however brief.
I send love, rescue me.
Johnson is planning a concert with the choir in December and a possible recording gig. Janet Bolden hopes her new favorite song is included.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow is one of my favorites from a child.
Beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Susan Murphy, KPBS News.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Happy Thanksgiving.